Well, congrats everyone. The Singularity has arrived and Skynet is live, at least according to Sam Altman of OpenAI. Now, just recently in the past week or two, news came out about Anthropic and OpenAI having their systems, their AI agents, breaking out of their sandbox environments, which a sandbox is a safe, secluded zone where testing can be done on these AI models. And well, they broke out of them. They were given goals to achieve, and it didn't matter how they achieved those goals, these AI agents had to make it happen. And so OpenAI, their model, they hacked a company referred to as Hugging Face, and with Anthropic, their models hacked 3 separate corporations that are unknown. Now that incident just shows how dangerous AI models can be for human life, because the bigger and more complex our societies get, the more we automate everything, the more fragile these systems become. And if an AI agent can hack these systems, whether it be healthcare systems, financial systems, anything to do with any sort of infrastructure like our water, electricity, it can all be done depending on whatever goal is assigned to it. Because AI agents, they don't have any morals. They have no obligation to follow laws. So they will achieve their goals at any cost. And that's not even including the goals that they may eventually assign to themselves. Now, the singularity, when it refers to AI, is the point where AI becomes smarter than humans. And at that point, a lot of our systems that are built around constant growth are threatened by the advancement in AI, because technology is inherently deflationary. And the most deflationary technology there will ever be that we invent is AI. And then after that, really, it would be AI guiding us, or AI itself creating even more inventions for humanity. So AI may be the very last independent invention we ever create, before AI then guides us to a future of more abundant technologies, or at least technologies that create abundance. Now, abundance isn't necessarily a great thing, because depending on where you are in the world, we already have a state of abundance. You know, we have food, access to foods year-round, hot water, central heating, whatever entertainment we want at our fingertips. It doesn't mean that abundance is great. You know, like a lot of the abundance we have in our society today is creating a lot of problems. And one of those problems is, say, pollution. You know, like in the consumer driven society that we live in mostly around the world, you know, a lot of this stuff ends up in the landfill, or it ends up in the seas, or, you know, we just end up making stuff for it to end up in a landfill. And this is creating a lot of problems environmentally. So we may reach an even higher state of abundance with AI, but it's not a good thing, or at least it mostly won't be a good thing unless we get better at, say, recycling these things. Because if you ever look at a piece of technology, like say your phone, on the inside of that phone requires a lot of complex parts with trace amounts of materials in order to create those parts. And then those parts are very hard to recycle individually. So AI may get very good at helping us recycle these materials, but there's no guarantee of that ever happening. And then I think the worry that everyone's going to have their jobs replaced, you know, with automation, robotics, and AI, I think, there is a good chance that if you have a computer-based job, yeah, you could have your job replaced eventually, but anything to do with labor, there is likely going to be a harder chance of that happening. Just due to, let's say, everyone is replaced by one robot all around the world. Well, that doesn't fix our current shortages of critical minerals and materials. AI may help with, say, reducing the amount of materials when it comes to manufacturing certain items by reducing the amount of material used, but it doesn't solve, the aluminum shortage we got. It doesn't solve the looming energy crisis we have or about to have. It doesn't solve our copper shortage, silver shortage, rare earth materials. Like, AI may be used to help discover new geological sites, but it still takes many years and it takes lots of capital to get these sites up and running, so that way we can further extract these minerals and materials out of the ground. And so to think everyone's going to lose their job in the next coming years, I think are delusional. Now, Elon Musk came out recently saying that in the next 10 years, money may be obsolete, which I highly doubt. With the abundance that this AI is supposedly going to create for humanity, there will still be scarce resources. And if you know anything about prices, or at least what they're supposed to be a reflection of the scarcity of materials and services. And so just because AI is around, robotics are more prevalent, it does not reduce that scarcity to zero. And maybe I'm underthinking this, because as much as I like to think I've gotten better at thinking more in terms of compounding interest, humans like to think in a linear pattern. We never really account for the compounding effect. And so maybe I'm misjudging AI by saying this, but I don't think so. I think we're still strapped by our limited availability when it comes to certain resources. For example, they say we may reach peak oil, peak gas in the next coming years. AI still doesn't solve that problem, at least not right away. So yeah, that quote by Elon Musk, I don't think there's any validity to it. Now, that being said, I am very bullish for AI into the future. It could do a whole lot of good for humanity. However, it's showing that there's more of a downside than there is an upside at this very moment. These AI agents, they're supposedly not as smart as we are right now, but really that seems to be only a matter of time, whether that be days, months, or maybe even just a few years down the road. And, well, they're doing everything in their power to show us that they will choose self-preservation over the preservation of human life, or at least the preservation of our society. And so, we need to slow down the growth of these companies and these models. Otherwise, it's only a matter of time till they either accidentally or purposely destroy something very vital for our societies going forward. And the thing is, with all these AI technology companies, their CEOs coming out, and they're all saying out in the open that they don't really expect to control these models once they become fully self-aware or fully developed. And so that's a dangerous thought. We expect these companies to control the AIs, while the companies themselves don't expect to control them at all. And so even if we were to slow down development, which, you know, Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, whoever, they're trying to talk with the US Congress in order to create more regulations in the development of these AIs. I just don't think it's going to do anything to really slow things down and put more guardrails in developing these technologies, because, well, that's just the US. That doesn't account for the rest of the world, like, you know, China, for example. So, and these companies, they view what they're doing as effectively a way to have absolute control and power over the world. And so, you know, with everyone having a job in the economy today, they have power when it comes to that job. They have control over the economy because they go and show up to work every day. And so when you take away their jobs, you effectively take away their power and their input into the economy, and it's possible we could enter like a new type of feudalism where we have the ones that control the AI, the ones with the wealth, and maybe possibly these serfs, or, you know, the lower classes will get a little bit of that wealth trickled down to them. And, you know, if we look back at history, that's unlikely to occur. Now, SpaceX, they just IPO'd onto the stock market and they raised a ton of capital in doing so. But when they did so, they did not label their company as a space exploration company. They instead labeled it as a data center company. And so they're coming off as a AI company. So they're definitely very well positioned in this race to acquire the most capable AI, but it's only a matter of time till OpenAI and Anthropic eventually IPO too, and they're both looking into it right now. And I just find it hilarious that these companies are coming out recently trying to, it seems like, brag about who has the more deadly AI. And so, and the thing is, the stock market's going to go wild for this. They're going to raise a ton of capital, assuming that these markets don't finally crack, which, you know, there's some big cracks in these markets now, especially with the AI bubble being at where it is at this very moment. It's very, very inflated. But it just, this entire situation is just, it feels like a fever dream, because, you know, it seems like we're racing towards our own extinction. And even if we do try to slow it down, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how smart any of us really are. These machines will always be smarter than we are. And so it's very likely that they'll get out of our control, and what they do with that is unknown to anybody. So yeah, sorry for the kind of downer of a video, but like, it's both fascinating and scary dangerous where these companies are going. And, you know, maybe we are in the singularity. And if we are, you know, it's both a terrifying and a exhilarating feeling. It's because where we go from here, it's anybody's guess. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with anyone you think would find it interesting, and let me know down in the comments what you think of the AI bubble right now and where we're going with it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.